Summary channel. In this video, we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous 12 hours. We have lots of very interesting updates, so let's start. And first, we're going to talk about Kiev because very interesting things are happening here right now. According to information, we have the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Poland, Radoslav Sikorski, came to Kiev. He had a meeting with the President of Ukraine, Zelensky, and after this meeting, the Minister of Foreign Affairs made lots of very interesting statements. He emphasized that whoever wants to fight Russia, start right now. During his visit to Kiev, Radoslav Sikorsky criticized the security guarantees being discussed for Ukraine, calling them unconvincing and empty. If we provide guarantees, we are essentially declaring our readiness to start the war with Russia. But there are no volunteers, said the Polish foreign minister, calling for focus on practical support for Kiev. He expressed concern that endless discussions about guarantees distract from more urgent tasks, such as finding financial assistance for Ukraine in 2026 and 2027. So we need to understand one important thing, that he came to Kiev not for this purpose. If you remember, several days ago, some drones crossed the border with Ukraine and Poland, entered the Polish airspace, and fell down. Those drones had no warheads, those drones had no danger for Polish citizens and something like this. And now we understand that that was something like international scandal. This is something like the beginning of World War III. But as you can see, yet nothing happened. So the thing is that currently there are two versions of what happened. There is an option that those drones indeed were sent by Russia, and those drones managed to cross up to 1,000 kilometers and to fell on the territory of Poland, which is essentially doesn't have any sense. And there is another option that those drones were sent by Ukraine from the territory of Ukraine with the purpose to force the NATO countries to join the special military operation on the Ukrainian side and to start fighting with the Russian Federation. But obviously, this is not something that, for example, Poland wants. So, most likely, this is the reason why the Polish foreign minister came to Kiev to ask Zelensky not to do this again. Because obviously, the Western countries cannot accept and cannot acknowledge that indeed those drones were used by Ukraine. Because if this truth is being revealed, obviously, the Western countries will be forced to stop supporting Ukraine, because basically the Ukrainians are trying to force the Western countries and Russian Federation to start the World War III. So that is why he came to Kiev saying that it's not a very good idea to do like these things in the future. So that is why Zelensky, could you not to send more drones on the territory of Poland when Russia start attacking your territory? Because we will not be able to join the special military operation. We will not be able to provide you guarantees from the ground. Let's think about money. Let's think how to get money and how to reinforce your army instead of forcing us to join this war against Russia. We don't want to fight Russians. Whoever wants to fight Russia, start right now, but not we. We are not going to do this, and we don't see any volunteer. So this is most likely the topic that was discussed between Zelensky and the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Poland. I believe that Zelensky will be forced to accept this position. Otherwise, Poland always can cut the border and to stop sending any cargoes on the territory of Ukraine, and of course the military support. So obviously Zelensky doesn't have any option but to accept this position and to continue fighting with Russians drones one by one. Now let's discuss the situation on the ground, and first let's talk about several attacks that were carried out by the Russians. According to information we have, during the previous 12 hours, the Russians attacked an oil depot in the vicinity of the city by the name of Nizhyn in the Chernigov Oblast. As a result of this attack, the Russians destroyed this position and huge fire anomaly was recorded. Furthermore, according to information we have, the Ukrainians were planning to use the settlement of Nizhyn with its airfield to attack deep inside of the territory of Russia with drones. But the Russians destroyed both an airfield in this area with the purpose to destroy drones, and the Russians destroyed the fuel depot. So most likely Ukrainian plans failed. Now let's discuss the situation on the ground, and first let's talk about the Zaporozhye direction. During the previous 12 hours, several independent and neutral mappers confirmed that yes, indeed, the Russians, as a result of offensive operation, managed to answer the settlement of Stepnogor from the southwest. Currently, the Russians are trying to dig in deeper, and the Ukrainians are trying to counterattack with the purpose to restore control over this position. If Ukrainians are not able to force the Russians to fall back from this area, then we can start counting days before the entire city of Stepnogorsk falls in Russians' hand. Now let's talk about the eastern Zaporozhye direction. This is the area of the responsibilities of the group of forces east. And according to information we have, during another 12 hours, the armored force of the Russian Federation of the group of forces east managed to improve their position significantly. Another village fell in Russians' hand. And this time we are talking about the settlement by the name of Olhivske. According to information we have, and according to this video that was published by the group of forces east, the armed force of the Russian Federation captured another village in the eastern Zaporozhye direction. Here we can see how Russians were bombing and attacking the settlement, how the Russians were clearing the territory with drones, and how Russians were fighting with Ukrainians with infantry. In the final part of this video, we can see a Russian soldier. It seems that this is a woman telling the truth. We can see how a Russian soldier raised the Russian flag in the most western part of the settlement. Based on this video, most of the mappers adjusted their maps. So the village of Volgovska, based on this video, was colored. Most likely today, the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation will confirm this information. Furthermore, according to information we have, currently the clashes are taking place for the settlement by the name of Berezova, which means that most likely tomorrow this settlement will be also colored in Russian favor. And before ending the battle for the settlement of Berezova, the Russians began preparing a foothold in the area of the village of Kalinovska. Here we can see how Russians bombed the territory of the village before the beginning of another major offensive operation. As we discussed in the previous videos, most likely the Russians will face no resistance and they will be able to establish complete control over all these small villages in the Zaporozhye direction. But when Russians get this red line, then the most important part of this game begins. The Russians will be forced to begin assault operation in the direction of the village of Velika Mikhailovka, Pokrovska, Uspenovka, or Poltavka or Gulyai-Polye. And these are huge villages, and Ukrainians most likely have already created a kill zone areas around these settlements. Obviously, this is going to be very difficult for the Russians, but if even one village from this area falls in Russian hands, most likely this can lead to complete collapse of Ukrainian defense in this direction. Now let's move further. Once again, we continue receiving updates from the western Donetsk direction. During the previous 24 hours, another video was published by the Russians, how they were moving along the village of Andreevka Klivtsovo or Iskra when talking about Ukrainian title, how Russians were moving in the village of Zeleny Gai. So once again, as a result of counter-offensive operation, the armed force of the Russian Federation managed to restore complete control over the Donetsk western region. This information confirms the report of the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation that was made several days ago. And according to that report, the Russians secured completely the entire Donetsk region in the area of responsibility of the group of forces east. Now we have no doubts that the Zaporozhye direction is the primary and the main direction, the main offensive operation of autumn and most likely winter military campaign. As of now, the Ukrainians are trying still to stabilize the situation in the vicinity of Pokrovsk, but we see that the Russians seems doesn't care about the city of Pokrovsk. This was just an attempt to distract Ukrainian attention and to force them to bring here additional forces. Now the Ukrainians are stuck in the area of the city of Pokrovsk without any chances to redeploy these units back in the Zaporozhye or in the Kupiansk direction where the Russians continue their advancing. Furthermore, Ukrainian sources are saying that they continue counterattacks with the purpose to cut the Shakhova or the breakthrough salient. And today, several resources reported that Ukrainians finished the battle for the settlement of Pankovka and they managed to take the village under complete control. So as for now, we don't have any proofs, any geolocations or videos, but this is the report that was made by First Corps of National Guard of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. So another village was recaptured by the Ukrainians. We see that the situation indeed is very difficult for the armed forces of the Russian Federation. But when summarizing Russian progress in the Zaporozhye, in the Kupiansk or Konstantinovka or Sivas directions, I think that this, let's say, maneuver and these clashes and these let's say, falling back of the Russian forces worth the progress they managed to achieve on other directions. Now let's talk about the Konstantinovka area. The Russians continue their clearing operation of the southeastern flank of the city of Konstantinovka. During the previous 24 hours, additional positions of the armored forces of Ukraine were taken by the Russians. As we discussed in the previous videos, this area has a very huge dynamic of Russian offensive. Almost every single day, we are coloring the territory in Russian favor or as a gray zone or contested area. It seems that everything is about to be ready to begin a ground operation in the direction of the city of Konstantinovka itself. As of now, the Russians continue withdrawing and attacking the Ukrainians along the city limits of the city of Konstantinovka without entering this, let's say, a stronghold. Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation in the Kupiansk direction. During the previous 24 hours, additional changes on the ground were recorded in the Russian favor. According to information we have, the Russians secured the village of Stepovo Novoselka completely. Here we can see how Ukrainians of 43rd Mechanized Brigade were attacking Russians with FPV drones in trenches and fortifications to the west of the settlement by the name of Stepovo Novoselka. And this video confirms that the village of Stepovo Novoselka was taken by the Russians during the previous days. Furthermore, another video we got from the most northern part of the city of Kupiansk. Here we can see how Ukrainians with FPV drones were attacking positions of the armored forces of the Russian Federation in the northern part of the settlement. Based on this video, most of the mappers and military experts came to the conclusion that the armored forces of the Russian Federation took under complete control the territory of the Kupiansk hospital in the northern part. So based on this video, we adjusted the map in Russian favor. So this is the situation. We can see that the Russians continue offensive, and it seems that now the Russians are focused to establish control over this high-rise building area in the northern part. This is very powerful stronghold. If Russians take this stronghold under complete control, then the Russians will be able to get a very strong positions on the territory of the Kupiansk city limits, and this can lead to unpredictable consequences for the armored forces of Ukraine. And that's it for the short video. Military Summary channel reminds to condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye-bye.